Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of this ARK series that I'm making. This is actually the second stream that I tried to do. The first, I was well on my way to getting halfway there to the first stream, but then the power went out. So I was thinking this whole time, instead of just picking up where I left off, I'm gonna start the video over. Now, for those who are watching this in the future, what I'm doing basically is I'm uncovering ARK's plot. Give me just a moment. Something I gotta take care of. Alright, sorry about that. I just couldn't focus with all the sound going to my headphones. But yes, what I'm doing is I'm covering the I'm reading up on the plot of the game. Many people, what they don't know is that there's actually a plot behind the game, and you could go through the whole game without uncovering a single thing. Like what's explored in the plot is why uh like like the ecosystems and what else, just the story behind the recipes that you find, and just it just explores a few things that you may have wondered during your play of the ARK. Now, before I begin, I want to point out that there is no right or wrong way to play the ARK. I mean, you just sign on, and you do what you want. You pick the map you want, and you're well on your way. But if by chance you're actually curious of uncovering the story, you would have to play the story maps in this specific order: the Island, Scorched Earth, Aberration, Extinction. And I think Genesis has Explorer notes as well. So basically what I'm going to do is show you guys. Because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading the Explorer notes. Now there's some of you who are watching this that already know what's in these notes. And I mean, that's fine. What I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to read them for those that don't want to go through the trouble of reading the notes, and as well as put in my own thoughts into the game. So we're going to go in the order of Helena, Edmund, Rockwell, Mei Yin Lee, and Gaius Nerva. And as far as the completion goes, the only ones you can get 100% on are Nerva's notes. You can find his throughout the entire island map. As for everybody else, the final notes that you'll find are gonna be in the tech cave. Number 30 for Helena, number 29 for Rockwell, and number 31 for Megan Lee. And I do want to point out that to me, at least to me, the dossiers are not really that important. Though you're free to search those at your leisure. So without further ado, let's start. I do apologize in advance if I mispronounce a few things and if I make errors during the reading, because the letters are so small. Anyway, I will try my best though. I've lost count of how many sunrises I've seen since I arrived on this island. Hundreds, I'd imagine. Yet each one seems more beautiful than the last. Sometimes I like to take Athena out just before dawn and watch it while flying through this morning sky. It's in these simple moments that I realize just how lucky I am. Not that I was unhappy exploring the reefs and rainforests back in Oz, but I wasn't ever going to spot a Bronto stomping about the outback, was I? Since I got here, I've had the opportunity to study creatures that no other biologist has ever witnessed. I'll always be grateful for that. So, here's a few things I'm already seeing. Like number one, Athena, she mentions Athena, which is probably the Argentavis that is pictured here. Uh, 2, it looks like Lena is from Australia. And unless it's corrected later on, I'm going to say she's from the present era. She's a biologist from Australia. So, I believe biology is the study of life. I think both plant life and wildlife. So this must actually be pretty sweet for her. I've been holding out for a change in weather before studying the wildlife of this island's peculiar tundra region, but I think it's safe to say that it's not forthcoming. Clearly, this planet has no axial tilt, and therefore no seasons. That ice and snow isn't melting anytime soon. I can't say I'm happy about it. The cold and I are not best mates. I can tell you that, but I'll just have to suck it up. The climate during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods that many of these islands' creatures hail from was fairly uniform, so an Arctic region is quite an oddity. It'd be plain stubborn of me not to have a Captain Cook. The tribe that calls themselves the Howling Wolves has really made this northern adventure a lot easier. Well, them and Athena. She's right at home here. I don't think I'll ever be able to repay Rockwell for just up and giving me an Argentavis. Yep, so there it is. He said our conversations are payment enough, but I still feel guilty. I should remember to collect some floral samples for him while I'm here. Anyway, tagging along with the wolves has been a good introduction to the region, but I think I'm ready to make my own way. To make real scientific conclusions, I need to observe these animals undisturbed in their natural habitat for long periods of time. So there's really no set time in between these nodes. So the time frame could range from days to weeks or even months, from one to the other. That's my theory anyway. What a day. There I am, putting the finishing touches on the mammoth dossier, when all of a sudden a Tyrannosaurus starts attacking the herd. It's truth. A Tyrannosaurus wading through the bloody snow. I asked the Howling Wolves at the nearest camp, and apparently this is a common thing. They're not new to the region. It just doesn't make sense. How can a Tyrannosaurus survive in this climate? And how can the introduction of an apex predator not shift the entire ecosystem? I've got to look into this as soon as I can. Well, I combed through more carnivore droppings than I cared to calculate, and I can't say they provided any answers. All the predators in this region have very similar diets. With so many different predators hunting the same prey, the population of all these species shouldn't be sustainable, yet I've found nothing to indicate that any population shift is actually happening. It's just bizarre. The longer I'm here, the more I realize that this region shouldn't exist. Its climate is out of sync with the rest of the island. Many of the creatures here are millions of years ahead of the dinosaurs, and the ecosystem is almost dead. Something's off. I need to review my notes. So anyone that loves dinos and has actually read up on prehistoric animals could already tell this right away after a few days in the game, at least. Or, I don't know. I mean, they could find that out sooner if they're really observant. But you have all these saber-toothed tigers and all these dinosaurs from different time periods. So, you think you would be in the past, but it's not the past, right? So anyway, going through my notes, I realized there are many predators than prey across this entire island by almost double. More predators than prey, sorry. That's the opposite of any ecosystem is supposed to work. I can't believe it took a Tyrannosaurus frolicking through the snow for me to see this. It's plain as day. What to make of it? Add in the human factor, and it's possible for this island to continue as it is by natural means. So what? Is this island's wildlife being monitored and curated somehow? I should speak with Rockwell. Maybe he's come to a similar conclusion. I never thought the island was normal exactly. I mean, there are giant obelisks floating in the sky, for Pete's sake. Not to mention that cape I found, which hit a platform similar to those found at the base of said obelisks. Well, similar except for the oddly shaped holes that were carved into its podium. So yeah, I covered that in the last stream for those who were here with me, but this other platform that she mentions is definitely the tech cave. I mean, there's no other platform. I guess I just didn't care about all that. So long as I had my beautiful, unique, and untainted ecosystem to study, I was happy. But now, no. I shouldn't write it up just yet. Not before I arrive at Rockwell's. There's still a chance that my data is off, or that I missed something obvious. I won't give up on our paradise just yet. Hello and welcome. You probably wouldn't hear when I said this, but I'm starting the stream over instead of picking up where I left off. So if you were here during the stream last time, you might see something you've already seen, but I'll try to breeze through this while still being coherent. I really need to visit Rockwell more often. It's so energizing to be around someone of his experience that still has so much excitement for his work, and talking to him always helps me gain perspective. As for the island's ecological abnormalities, Rockwell reassured me that I was jumping to conclusions. He made a great point. Just because this place doesn't follow the scientific laws we're used to, doesn't mean it follows no scientific laws at all. After all, science is about discovery, and new discoveries can invalidate old principles. I agree. So before I latch onto my theory, I need to gather more empirical evidence. Otherwise, I'm no scientist. You know, that just brings up about Pluto being a planet and not being a planet back and forth. I think that's a good definition of science right there. On Rockwell's recommendation, I've headed south to start an in-depth study of the island's marine life with the help of a tribe called the painted sharks. Because the ecosystem of the ocean that surrounds the island is separate from the ecosystem on the mainland, correlating patterns between them might help me isolate and understand this island's scientific abnormalities. Also, I've been freezing my butt off for so long, I could really use an extended stay on a tropical island. Marine biology was never my strongest field, but I do love the ocean. If nothing else, it should be beautiful there. So she got tired of the frozen region and was more than happy to move to a more tropical area. The painted sharks have treated me like I'm the bloody queen since I showed them Rockwell's letter of recommendation. I don't think I've eaten better in my entire time on the island. Not that it's a high bar, I'm a horrible cook. Oh, and they've been of tremendous help with my research, of course. So far, my estimates of the predator-prey balance are consistent with the ecosystems on the mainland. The water is simply teeming with shoals of megalodons, and they are extremely aggressive. Perhaps as a side effect of having limited prey? Sharks are known as territorial creatures. I'll have to study them further. So yeah, what she's trying to find out is why there's more predators than prey, when in actual ecosystem it should be the other way around. Still no answers as to why the megalodons are so territorial, but I was privy to something even more extraordinary. Megalodon mating behavior. No one's ever witnessed great whites rooting around back home, so that alone is monumental. But I got something even better. I know. What could possibly top watching megalodons having a naughty, right? Tracking the female. Hang on. Tracking the female. I was able to observe her for almost the full gestation period, and get this. It only lasts 1 week. 1 week. No wonder the population is so high. These things are spitting out pups at 44 times the rate of Aussie great whites. I should compare how they behave in captivity. And even in official settings, you'd notice that the animals grow quickly after hatching or after being born. So that's something she noticed. So in addition to all the oddities I found with the wild megalodons, here's the real cherry on top. Okay, I'm not reading that bit. A bit of training and they're more obedient than the family dog. Now, I've heard of sharks getting bare rudimentary training over a year or so, but not to this extent. Certainly not so easily. Sharks aren't mammals or even avians, they're fish. They rely more on instinct, or to put it simply, they're not very smart. You shouldn't be able to ride one like a jet ski. I'm trying to keep an open mind like Rockwell suggested, but this just feels wrong. Yeah, well, how could you tame a shark? Well, this seals it. Just when I thought I'd make some sense of the notes I took while visiting the painted sharks, I spotted the nail in the proverbial coffin. Roos. A whole herd of giant roos were just hopping about the countryside like they'd always been there. As much as I love roos, they just shouldn't be here, period. They evolved in Oz, and Oz only 60 million years after dinosaurs went extinct, among a beehive of other marsupials. If I know any genus, it's this one, and Procopteron should not exist here. This island isn't an ecosystem, it's a zoo. So as I covered earlier, we know at this point that Helena is from Australia, and unless I'm corrected by future notes, I would assume she's on the present day, or at least the present day by the time ARK was made. Not too long ago, I thought this place was a far-off utopia where I could study all the world's lost wonders. Now that I'm fairly certain it's not natural at all, I had to say, it's lost a lot of its luster. Interference from mankind hasn't helped. Most tribes have learned to live in harmony with their slice of the island, but some aren't content with that. One is even trying to conquer all the others, and natural or not, this ecosystem won't be any better off if it's burned down in some great war. The sunrises are still beautiful though. At least nothing can change that. I gotta watch a sunrise sometime. Of all the abnormalities that I've observed, the tame megalodons stick out to me. It was almost like they were stray dogs where we socialized, as though they had genetic history of human obedience. Most of my observations have been in the wild, but I think I may learn a thing or two if I observe domesticated creatures more closely. I need to study their diets, their mating patterns, how they socialize with other species, all that. Rumor has it that there is some woman that's tamed a whole mess of them, all by herself, so many that they call her the Beast Queen of the jungle. Maybe she'll have some useful insights. I suppose it was a bit naive of me to think that someone with the moniker of Beast Queen would roll out the red carpet. I guess I got used to all the friendly treatment that being an associate of Rockwell's earned me. She did let me stay at least, and she hasn't instructed her dinosaurs to kill me yet, so that's a positive. And that she'd really need the dinosaurs. If that glare of hers gets any more intense, I'll probably just burst into flames on the spot. It's true. I hope she eases up. Sifting through raptor excrement with someone watching is harder than you might think. Oh, and once again, she's pretty. I think that's May. I'll have to look at her name in a bit. There's nothing special about the diets of these tame creatures when compared to their wild counterparts. Part of that is that the Beast Queen's doing, and as she takes them on regular hunting excursions for training purposes. Curiously, they never have to range too far. There's an abundance of prey nearby, despite the size of her pack. That this has held true regardless of a domesticated creature's remarkable birth and growth rates makes it even more unusual. Oh, and I did finally get her name. Li Mei Yin. Okay, that's it. She's gotten a little less glary, too. In hindsight, maybe starting by studying her animal's feces just gave off a bad first impression. As I said in the last stream, just picture meeting somebody new, like just someone you just met. You haven't gone to their house yet. It could be a friend, a new relationship, anything like that. What happens if, when they invite you at their house, the first thing you do is see if they have a cat, and you look at their poop? You go through the litter box, just inspecting every little turd in there. Tell me, how would that end? The most interesting thing that I've observed about Mei Yin's animals has been what they don't do. They never fight. Among creatures that have been domesticated for generations like cats or dogs, that's normal. But there's a reason zoos keep their animals in separate enclosures. Certain instincts are hard to curb. There should definitely be more disputes among such a diverse group. Mei Yin has even integrated a herd of herbivores into her army, as their thick hides have proven resistant to fire and explosives. Yet despite being surrounded by carnivores, they remain untouched. It doesn't make sense. That's not to take anything away from Mei Yin. She works hard to treat and train her animals well. She's not bad company either, at least when she's not mute and out and go full biologist. Sometimes it's felt like speaking a new language, but it's been kind of refreshing. After going over my notes from Mei Yin's camp, I've concluded that the animals on this island are not only used to humans, but used to captivity. Even with their accelerated growth rates, their behavior indicates that they have been regularly domesticated for decades at least. Otherwise, they'd never obeyed the whims of mankind so easily. Yeah, most of the animals are easy to tame on the island. You just tranquilize them and feed them. That's it. With that in mind, I believe that my theory about this island being curated is back in play. In fact, it's possible that not only are animal populations being controlled, but that the animals themselves are genetically modified. However, before I bring this to Rockwell, there's one more rumor that I want to confirm. This is the smoking gun. It has to be. I simply can't be convinced that this place is natural after finding an island populated entirely by carnivores. Yep, that's an island to the northeast. I believe the community calls that Cardinal Island. Even if they fed off of each other, which is awfully dubious, given that carnivore meat is much more likely to carry harmful parasites than herbivore meat, the landmass is so small and the population is so dense that they could never maintain it. Yet there it is, hidden away off in the northeast corner of the island. Someone would have to put them there on purpose. There's no way that Rockwell can deny my theory now. So yeah, her theory is that none of this is natural and that it's all being curated by something else. And Rockwell kind of dismissed it at first. And it looks like... Actually, we'll find out what he does here. As I expected, Rockwell couldn't deny my theory. Okay, there it is. But I can't say that I have his endorsement either. He didn't seem terribly engrossed in the subject, frankly. Something else seems to have captured his attention as of late. The island's obelisks. Apparently, Rockwell stumbled upon a way to interact with the towering monuments while spelunking of all things. I guess he felt the need to scratch that old intrepid explorer itch of his. It's pretty impressive, considering his age. Now that I think about it, the obelisk could be linked to my own findings. Their nature has always been a mystery, and Rockwell made some intriguing observations. I should follow up. And this picture is actually the artifact of the Sky Lord, which I can show later. Number 22, we're almost there. Though I've been received by the Iron Brotherhood, they didn't seem very pleased to see me, especially when I mentioned Rockwell. That's a first. Add that to the rather deserted, gloomy state of the compound, and I'm starting to feel a bit apprehensive. Their leader can't return from his hunting trip and his hunting expedition soon enough. All I've confirmed so far is that yes, they've gathered all the artifacts Rockwell sought, and yes, the artifacts were able to activate one of the obelisks. You'd think they'd be celebrating such a monumental discovery, but it's just killjoys as far as the eye can see. Go figure. You notice that the tone is slowly changing here. There's the Broodmother. I keep glancing at the artifact. I understand why the Iron Brotherhood's leader didn't want it. Since it has no apparent use, all it does is remind him of the tribesman who died seizing it from a giant spider. Can it be useless though? They described the artifacts that activated the obelisk as looking similar to it, so I headed to the nearest obelisk to see if I could get a response. No luck. Maybe it activates something else? Of course, the platform in the cave. It's a long shot, but it's the only thing I can think of that's similar to the obelisks. Definitely worth a try. That'll be the tech cave, which is located at the center of the volcano. Actually, the edge of the volcano. On the inside. So that's the artifacts of the Skylord, the Strong... I believe that's the Devourer as well. And maybe the Cunning and the Brute. I think that's what they are. Unbelievable. The artifact perfectly fits one of the slots in the platform's pedestal. How did I not notice that right away? I really am a dipstick. So, if this key, such as it is, was acquired by activating one of the obelisks, then it follows that the other two keys can be obtained by activating the other two obelisks. Then, but all three keys, maybe this platform will lead to whatever it is controlling the island's ecosystem. If the other obelisks work the way that the first one did, that means I need to find a whole mess of artifacts first, and I don't think I can do that alone. So who's she gonna seek out? Well, the Howling Wolves are quickly tracking down the artifacts, but after hearing about what happened to the Iron Brotherhood, that's as far as they'll go. It's understandable. But it leaves me in a tight spot. If a giant spider and I get in the scrap, the spider's winning for sure. Even with Athena on my side, I prefer to avoid danger, not confront it. My aim's poor and I've got fists like marshmallows. If I want a fair go at actually surviving whatever happens when the obelisk activates, I'll need backup. Negotiation notes. Don't mention feces. Don't look directly at the glare. Bring chili, unburned. Now, oh, yeah, that's the Megapithecus, one of the bosses of the island. Now, I know you don't get a nickname like Beast Queen without being one tough lady, but when I saw that giant ape, I still thought that we were buggered. Fortunately, Mei Yin's got more intestinal fortitude than yours truly, and somehow, someway, she was able to pull out a win. Glad I'm on her good side. I already found the second key, but I want to take a look around before we head back through the portal. This ape either lived here or was released when we activated the obelisk. Finding out how it survived in this isolated environment, or how it got here, could prove useful. Number 27, and that would be Nerva. So, these are the conquerors that I heard about way back when. Not a great first impression. Mei Yin and I weren't quite mates, but watching her creatures get slaughtered like that certainly wasn't pleasant. I'm not a fan of the prisoner lifestyle either, so it looks like Helena got captured. The leader introduced himself as Gaius Marcellius Nerva, and he's not a complete bogan. I'll give him that. He let me keep my personal effects, and our conversations have been civil so far. I get the feeling that'll change if I don't cooperate, though. Not that I have much choice. They already took the keys. The only way I'm seeing this through is as a guest of the new Legion. This Nerva bloke's fig jam incarnate. He seems to think that he's Jupiter's gift to the island, or some rubbish like that. I think his ego was actually tangible when the Legion returned from the obelisk with the third key and the head of the dragon, of a dragon in tow. Sadly, as much as I would enjoy seeing him fall flat on his face, I need him, and I need the new Legion. So, when he asked me to guide his forces to the hidden cave, I obliged without protest. What he'll do with me afterwards, I don't know. Of course, I'll be right back. Okay, I apologize. I just had to figure out why the dog was barking, and I just had to leave her be. Okay, so this is the final Helena note that I found. Oh, come on!